Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Pardon me, this is the October 14th meeting.
Where's the time?
We do have a quorum with 4 voting members present. The one voting member that's absent is Mr. Van Leer, and Tracy Schaefer. Dr. Tracy Schaefer is also absent. We're going to review and make a motion on some minutes, and that's where the August 12th date comes in. Has anyone had any discussion on the August 12th, 2021 minutes? If no comments or edits, may we have a motion?
So move.
Mr. Aiken moves to approve. Do we have a second? Mr. Glover seconds. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Next set of minutes is from August 30th, 2021. Any discussion? If none, is there a motion?
Make a motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Glover to approve. Do we have a second?
A second.
Thank you. Second by Linda Monk. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. And finally, a set of minutes from September 9th, which was, I believe, a special meeting called September 9th, 2021. Any discussion? If none, do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Mr. Glover. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Aiken. Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay, moving down our agenda. We have no new business today on the agenda. We do have several items for discussion, and I'm going to insert one item for discussion that I failed to get on the agenda, and I think it's important and pertinent to the rest of our bullet points. So I'd like to insert a bullet point for Mr. David Glover. At my request, he met with a commercial broker over the last 30 days to discuss acquisitions, sales, state of real estate, commercial real estate, and our role, and just to seek some input and ideas. So, Mr. Glover, the floor is yours to report on that meeting.
Okay, thank you. I met with Jerry Barnholt in the very next day, and we had a very good discussion. This was before he wrote the weird letter. But anyway, it was prior to that. It didn't have anything, I don't think it had anything to do with my meeting with him.
Nice job.
And he pointed out that I think all 3 towns, Avon, Brownsburg, Plainfield, all have a former charge of the redevelopment town. I don't know all that, but it's actually a full-time employee, and their job is if they're meeting with someone that wants to develop something, he's got all the answers for the tax rate and the sewers. He knows it all. He or she's, and that person is a point person. So then when someone comes to him, as opposed to us saying, hey, we'll do anything, and we're ready, and we can help in any way we can, our competition is kind of letting them know line by line what's going on, how they can do it, how we can help them. So they have more specificity. And I don't think we have critical mass to afford a person like that. So I don't think that that's the answer, that we actually have someone like that. Could someone like Jerry, an ad hoc person, maybe? He certainly has the qualifications to do it. But how do you compensate that person? And I was kind of kicking around some stuff. We could give him the deal on the brokers commission. That's really not quite enough that he's gonna have to do all that work anyway. I don't think that that's really the answer, so I'm not sure how you do it. And he kind of looked at me and he said, well, you know, you could learn all this, you could do it. And he said, really? I mean, someone just needs to kind of dedicate themselves, and it's not rocket science, and have all the answers, and so someone on this board could be that person. Someone maybe in the town that has already on your payroll, Mark, that has capacity and maybe has a little bit of time to do it, and it might enrich their job in a way. Maybe they could be that person. I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't really have an answer. I'm not here to make a recommendation. But it seems like if we would do better if we had a point person that was multiverse, bringing a piece of real estate to them. I think that's the end conclusion is we need to probably pick up our game a little bit, be it by this board's knowledge, maybe each take a facet of it. I don't know that I'm the right person to do it. I'm not volunteering to do it, but someone maybe should be. Maybe someone should be a little bit better, and maybe one of the other towns. Maybe we can go pick their brains about the person that actually has a job. What's their job description? I hope that they have a job description. That might lay it all out. Then maybe we take that job description. And maybe there are, if there's 10 items on that job description, maybe we could divvy them up. Anyway, there you go. That's about he'd be willing to do it, couldn't figure out how to compensate him, but he also suggested that hard maybe. But that we probably ought to move it up. Look out.
Could I add to that, Mr. President? So we are making some steps and strides towards something similar to that. Most towns have an economic development director. We don't. We can't justify that at this point. We use the Hendricks County Economic Development Partnership. So anytime tax abatements are requested, usually it comes through them. The businesses will go through the director, and then the director will contact us to be put on for a tax abatement. At the first of the year, provided budget's approved, I'll be promoting a utilities director who will be a one-stop shop for all of those utilities. So he will be the stormwater, the wastewater, and the water. So all of those utilities questions should be answered by that person. And then the council voted last week to form a CDC, a Community Development Corporation, which I think will help some of those same issues you're talking about, but it'll also help this body. It's going to help the town of Danville, completely, but they'll be able to do some things outside of the normal scope of what this body or the town itself can do. They'll be able to actually, buy properties that don't have to meet the appraisal conditions and things like that. So, we've fallen under a lot of restrictions, and I think the prime example was the Pop Logan's lot, and I think the CDC will be able to, a body that will help us maybe move forward from there. So I don't know if we're going in the same direction that you and Jerry talked about, but we are trying to make some steps to, I hope I'm saying that right, that we're trying to make sure that we're not left at the starting gate, if you know what I'm saying.
That's great, and I should have added one more thing, and this was akin to what our discussion was, is that he did think that the airport area should be our prime spot, as it's just has so much potential for so many different types of things. Not that what we're doing here on that corridor, we could do that obviously too, but that ought to be whoever this mission or purpose is, and that's where we ought.
So if I can continue with my liberty, Mr. President, to speak, because this was actually, we were going to bring this up during the staff reports. I have actually scheduled time for during our work study, which is at 6:30 next Wednesday, for anyone from this body who would like to address the council about what you're asking about the airport, that southeast property. There's almost 400 acres there that could be available for commercial development. One of the arguments we hear from our remonstrators on the Miles property is they're not happy that we're doing 400 acres of residential without having the possibility of 400 acres of commercial. And we believe we have 400 acres of commercial that is sitting on our doorstep. And so again, I set the time aside if you guys want it. In fact, the whole work study is dedicated to this discussion. One of the things that, as you may or may not know, we received ARPA money, the American Rescue Plan. We received $2.2 million, and we've received our first installment of $1.1 million. Right now, it's like Santa Claus walked into the building and our department heads are all vying for that money. I'm sure you can only imagine. My objective with the money, if I have any say with the council, will be to do a study to find out our best way to run wastewater to the airport. I think that, personally, I believe that should be our number one priority. Because when we can get them sewer, they have the ability to do monstrous expansion. And if we can figure out how to do that sewer, either Gary was good enough to keep documents, and we found easements from CSX and NDOT that we could actually go underneath 36 and the railroad, but we also have the ability to come in from the south. We have wastewater at Waste Management that we can expand from there. But we need to spend the money probably first to do a study to see which is the best. There's also a possibility that we could partner with another agency who's looking to run a gas line underneath CSX and the highway, and we could,
Cost share.
cost share, absolutely. So, there's a lot of options. I'm just throwing this out there because, again, I think as staff, we believe, and I think we're in line here with the Redevelopment Commission, we believe that is our next growth area for commercial. We do not see that as a residential growth area because you've got an airport, you got a landfill, you got an asphalt plant, you got a concrete plant. This just makes sense to us. And, we would like to, if we can run the utilities into that area and get it pre-piped and ready to go, I hate to use the Field of Dreams things, but if we build that, maybe they'll come. And that's what we're looking at.
Well, it'll at least put us ahead of the curve because they will eventually come. I don't know if this utilities in and of itself will spur development, but it'll save a year when someone is ready to come. It'll save a year.
Yeah. And once we look at that, once we look at the utilities, if we could find the right partner, we could probably even put in some roads through there if we were able to get that property, maybe even do a build, operate, transfer, a couple of those types of buildings. Just depends on what we can get.
And Ben, one of the other things about that is a lot of the companies that look at that area, and we've had a few in the past, not large, companies, but one of the first things they ask is there sanitary sewer? Is there water? So it's almost like you have to get it there in order to attract those companies. So
To stay on the list of potential sites, we immediately get crossed off the list when there's no utilities.
Right,
So at
that's
least,
correct.
I'm not saying we'll get one, but we'll stay on the list longer and
Right.
be in the game.
Yeah, because once we say we can dance around and we've got, this on one side, we
Yeah.
can do this, they don't care about us anymore. They want to see
That's
it.
kind of what you're.
Right,
Sorry.
that's right. Agreed.
I think Mark's statement was what we used back with the Commerce Park. Build it and they will come. At that time, we had Simpson Racing on board. They were gonna locate there. And if anybody knows Bill Simpson, he's just a little bit on edge or come from someplace else. But never came to fruition. But I was pretty sure, Mark, that Kent and Walt did a route both ways for sewer. And put it in their little banning folder and it should be there. I'm pretty sure it addresses capacity, location, both ways, which is why we went ahead and got what we did, so.
Right.
But you're right, if we don't have that, then it crosses off the list.
I think it's safe to say you have consensus from the RDC to pursue that
Thank you.
with great haste and,
Yep.
is that a fair statement?
Yes, I had a couple questions.
Of course.
Just really- Of course I do. You could have said that. As far as paying, someone like Jerry, is it ever done as like an independent contractor where they keep track of their hours and, there's a cap on, don't work over so many hours? Is that ever done? That was one question. And
I don't know, but it seems reasonable that it could be done.
then,
We're talking about a consultant.
yes. Then I think you guys have to look at no farther than Madison, hired as a part-timer. And I'm under did I hear correctly that role needs, you guys want to expand her role? I mean, because it's been so successful, because you got to create the buzz and then you're going to bring in the money. And I know I've been listening to the budget stuff. I know things are tight and I get all that, but is that a possibility? To maybe a half-time person to start with until, I don't know. That's the next question.
I couldn't do it this year. The budget's already, we're going for approval
Right, I know.
next week. and,
Right, I get that,
you
and
know,
I
yeah.
know how tight it is,
Right,
but
yeah.
just to have that in the back of the mind.
It's
And-
something that, as you move forward with that, I
Yep.
mean, we could set aside some of our budgeted money
Right.
towards contributing to that salary.
Yeah, true.
And then the CDC, correct? Is that the terminology? I guess I would also like, it sounds so exciting to have another group. I just want to make sure that going forward, how do we work together to go forward together and, not step on each other's toes? And I know all the other towns, it was said, have them and, just, again, do we need to go and talk to them and how do they work together? Because I think that's pretty exciting. That was it.
So I think this dovetails into our last, our bullet point on the bottom of the items for discussion being agricultural properties in the Southeast Danville update. I mean, we've already started down that trail. We might as well go ahead and jump there and talk about whatever else needs to be talked about under that bullet point.
Sounds good.
What is the update?
Well, obviously, we have the list, and one of the things that, I talked to you about getting the information from the assessor to say, okay, it's not going to get taxed on anything but ag. But one thing that I had not thought about is there is a slight difference in the rate from the town versus Center Township. So that Center Township or Danville is just a little bit higher than Center. So I had the question posed, what incentive do you have to give that property owner to annex into the town of Danville? So what I would like to do is talk to the auditor and assessor again and say, okay, we're not talking about assessing property for an ag. We're talking about letting them keep their same tax rate.
Correct.
That's really what we're talking about, right?
Correct.
So, and I know Avon did this, because they called it an ag abatement.
Correct.
It kept the same parcel ID.
Right.
So you would think you were looking at a Washington Township tax ID, but it wasn't. It's
Right.
actually. So I need to go back and clarify that and make sure that that they understand what we're really
Yeah.
asking for.
And what is the difference in rate?
It's very little. I did not bring my
Yeah.
list, but it's
My conclusion when I looked at it was that it was
Very
virtually nominal. I mean, it was just,
Then I thought,
yeah. I mean, it's just hardly worth. It's just not that much.
yeah.
But I could see someone saying, well, you know, what are we going to get? We're going to pay a higher tax rate. So I just want to go back and verify that and make sure,
And the answer is development opportunities.
well,
That is the answer.
their property's worth something now because
Their
it's already
property's worth-
zoned.
Their property's worth farmland is what it's worth right now.
Right, right. But it is zoned industrial or
Then we're talking
AD, so it's
With
already,
utilities.
Right.
And then that is the incentive.
that is the incentive, yeah. But I do want to clarify that. And then at the last meeting, we talked a little bit about maybe instead of talking to all of the property owners in that area that we defined, just go to the property owners that are actually adjacent to the corporate limits right now.
Agreed.
So I will work on that. I wish I had more information for you tonight.
Agreed. It seems to me like we should have a couple of those conversations with the most adjacent landowners just to see how those discussions go. And if it becomes readily apparent that the ag abatement is you have to have it or this is just not happening, then at least we know.
Right. And then that leads to something else, and I know I talked to you about this briefly, but there, where Ken Bishop's property is at the roundabout, that property is
300 E or 200 E?
200 East
200 E.
and Main Street. That property is for sale, and I've had a couple calls on that from people that are wanting to develop it. They want to remove the home or the office building and construct something there, but that lot is small, so they're really constrained with what they can do. So one of the gentlemen that I talked to, I suggested that he reach out to the adjacent property owner because it's vacant, but there's a septic system on that. I guess I would like to have direction on, and maybe this comes from the council, I don't know, as to how far do we go? How far do town employees go to reach out to those landowners and say, hey, you know, would you be interested in annexing? Your property could be worth more than what it is. But I see that areas like that, in particular, needing to be retained for commercial, because I really think that we need some commercial areas in Danville.
I think it's well within the purview of the town manager and the planner
Okay.
to address them.
We've actually talked to some investors, and the Southwest Electronics just went up for sale as well. Of course, what the property lease described is between the mini motel and Kim Bishop's place. That lot does hold the motel's septic. And we've already spoke with wastewater. We're not afraid to negotiate in any way, shape, or form to try and better our community. And we may actually approach the mini motel and see if they would be willing to annex in, vacate their septic. We will provide them with sewer. We'll do the hookup. They'll still have to pay, at the end of the day for sewer. But in return for the free sewer, it's our objective to put trails and sidewalks down Main Street to connect throughout our municipal boundaries. And so we might say, look, we'll provide you with septic if you'll grant us easement to put, a trail on there. So we're not opposed to bartering by any means.
Yeah, I like the sound of that. Plus, it frees up that adjacent lot for sale to the Ken Bishop development.
Yeah, and ideally, I mean, if somebody could strike the deal to get the motel and the
Yeah.
Southwest Electronics,
Yeah.
that'd be a nice strip mall through
Yeah,
there.
it sure would.
Yeah.
Would,
Didn't we run from some sewer from the apartment complex across the street, which is behind the old Fremont Pontiac dealership?
To Woodbury?
Yeah, Woodbury.
Yeah.
Seems like we ran a
And-
manhole on one side, went across to another manhole.
And we actually ran it to, across from Beasley's, I can't think of. Yeah, but there's another one. They did, they actually paid for the expansion. And then they wanted to do where if somebody else hooked in, they got the fee. And I don't remember who hooked in, but they were like, you know what, it's not worth the hassle, and they abandoned that agreement. But it's like, I think they went to Pedigree, Gary, if I'm not mistaken. They're across from Beasley's. Pedigree, we just did it.
Seems like there was a home.
Yeah, there was a home that was a
Yeah.
restaurant.
Yeah, it was at 300 East.
Not just that one,
There was one
a
at-
blonde brick, I think.
Yeah, it was 300 East and 36, if I'm not, or, yeah, it was right on that area, because again, it was right after I came in as town manager, and we had missed some deadlines that we actually had to redo the whole annexation again. Do you remember that? We had to basically redo all the timelines.
You're talking about the pedigree and the,
Yes.
there were two properties there.
Goodwin or something like
Yeah.
that. I can't
Yeah.
remember what the name was, but
Yeah.
yeah,
All right,
I'm sorry.
you're okay? We'll circle back around. Any final comments on those agricultural properties and the update? Lisa's going to do some more research. And Lisa, let's start looking at the list on who we think are the most appropriate to contact, maybe even by the end of the year, you know?
And then will someone be at the work study to address that as well? It's next Wednesday at 6:30.
The 20th,
Yes, sir.
I'll be there.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Doesn't have to be a whole lot. It's only 30 minutes.
Okay.
Thank you.
And, I mean, is that a me-generated discussion, them-generated? Who's going to facilitate that
It's you.
discussion?
You. Yeah, we've got it listed that the RDC would like to speak to the council about.
Can I see the list in advance?
Literally, that's all. There's no list. It just says, you know,
I'll be your wingman.
yeah, that you guys want to talk to them about, you know, the creating additional property expansion. So, but yeah, I can give you the agenda. There's
Shoot me the short list of
Yeah.
things we need to talk about.
there's literally there is.
Please.
I mean, it is one blurb. That's all it's on
Well,
there. So
If you go back to one of the minutes in here, it talks about us meeting with them so that we can get a joint vision going forward. So I think it was just sort of to feel out how they felt about, you know, what we're doing and if they're in agreement with that and then, you know, how fast we go and if they
All right.
like our plan.
Ben, I would think from council's perspective, giving you feedback, elected officials don't like headaches. So they probably want to make sure that annexations are voluntary or super voluntary.
Right.
Not involuntary.
Yeah, us too.
True. I'm sure that's in the back of their mind.
I'll give them that assurance.
And just the fact that you're talking about business versus more homes, I'm sure they will be more agreeable to something of that nature rather than the homes.
Okay. Safe travels.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to back up on the agenda to a bullet point appraisal report for 195 East Main Street. This is the apartment building at the corner of Main Street and Tennessee that we've been in discussions with the owner about. We ordered and received 2 appraisals, and those 2 appraisals The Lawson appraisal came out to 210,000. The Bowman and Associates appraisal came out to 227. And by my math, the average between those two is 218.5. And so what the commission had talked about doing was presenting an offer to the landowner for a certain amount and seeing where it goes from there. And also, if we got a counteroffer back, to take that to legal counsel and try to find out what our limitations or ceilings are as far as can we go higher than the appraisal, to the average of two appraisals, and under what circumstances, and does this apply, and those sorts of things. The landowner's aware. I've had a personal conversation that it would be our offer, and he doesn't know what that number is, but I think we should put together an offer to him and see where it goes from there. I'm pitching that as a concept to you guys for open mind discussion on what else is there. What else is out there? What haven't I mentioned that may be applicable here that we need to take into consideration?
Well, the basic need for the acquisition of that property is for redevelopment of that intersection.
In time, yes, it will be.
One of those improvements would be turning radiuses, the roadways, widening Tennessee Street so that vehicles can safely turn right or left without obstruction by other cars. That's one. But as I sat and daydreamed about the whole DQ thing, is that we've got a surface parking lot to the south, town owns.
Yes,
We've got a surface parking lot that the library owns.
yes.
I think somewhere up front on this property, there's gonna have to be some sort of a parking garage.
A parking garage. Yeah, I mean, we have talked about the concept of a parking garage.
Whether it's circular in sense and so that the footprint doesn't take up a whole lot of room on it. New buildings, hopefully when they come along, parking for the employees.
Right? I don't know that it would be, when we would want it on the street frontage, on the main street frontage. It could be back on one of those south lots to add more spaces, but
I'm not
that's-
speaking for the library.
we're way down the line on what it could be. And I just want to circle back to the first step of acquisition of a key piece of property.
I think armed with the two appraisals, I think it makes perfect sense for our initial offer. To do the average of 218.5. I don't know why we offer. Reasonable offer? I think we ought to do it. Can't find it.
Is that a motion?
I'll make a motion that we offer 218.5, 195 East Main Street.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to make an offer to 18.5 for 195 East Main Street. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Okay.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Lisa Ternay and I will reach out to legal counsel to make an offer, have them draw up an offer for us, and to discuss any other things we need to talk about in making that offer. And then, as the negotiations move along, we can then, of course, have more discussions about how we pay for it.
I did think of one thing that we ought to probably add to that is to get I don't know if we need a formal bid, but to have a fairly good idea of the demolition cost of tearing it down, because the guy's gotta know that we pay him $218,500, now we've got another 20 grand in demolition, or whatever. So, it wouldn't hurt us to have that number.
It's 17.5.
Oh, you've already done it?
17 to 25.
Oh.
I've done a lot of demolition over there.
There you go.
And
And so
maybe that's good enough.
it is for me at this point. I just, I don't even think that's going to be a next year thing, probably. There's no reason to demo it until there's going to be a use or a need, but it's good to know.
I was just, from the standpoint of just negotiating with that
Yeah.
218.5, that's part of our cost.
Right.
Right.
Anybody, no one's gonna buy this place and leave it like it is.
They might.
In fact,
Yeah.
they might, I
Yeah.
shouldn't say
Yeah.
that.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of people.
Yeah.
I shouldn't say
Okay,
So-
I'll reach out to her, to
Yes.
Lisa, and ask her to put something together.
And so if we get a counteroffer, or further discussions, we'll take it from there. Very good.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
great. And then the last bullet point under items for discussion is simply moving forward with development of the DQ block and an update. This is a great piece of that. And what remains unknown at this point, is Pop Logan's and, the status of that that winning bid, if it is going to come to fruition and they're going to close, I still don't know.
I don't know if they've closed. I know that Dairy Queen has reached out to get a permit for a storage building behind their existing building. So I think they're in preparation for, finding a place for their supplies. And
Okay.
I don't know if that means that they've closed on the Pop
Yep.
Logan property or not.
So, anybody else have any comments on an update for that?
Is that a plumbing company that's
Yes,
wanting to move in there?
yes.
You
It's
had
my
a question?
understanding it's Cup Plumbing.
Cup plumbing, yeah.
it.
You had no problem with the use?
Yes, but they have not reached out to me. I've talked to a realtor regarding that. I don't know if it was a realtor for the proposed purchaser or what, but I did bring up the point that use would not be permitted.
Michael,
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Not on that specifically, but the bullet point of, do we have any other thoughts, plans about what we want to see on the block? How do we go forward from here after what we've decided to go after the rental property?
I have lots of thoughts on it, but I think we almost need to schedule another meeting specifically just for that
I agree.
discussion.
I agree.
And it would go beyond us,
Yep.
into the community
Right.
on,
Yes, yes.
and things of that nature.
Yes.
Bring the players together to talk about it.
One
Well,
other
if we
quick
have
thing,
this-
I'm sorry.
Michael.
I also told, or that person that I talked to said they were just going to have an office there. So, I mean, I don't know if that's true or
But
not,
they're gonna have
but,
signage.
well, they're going to, how are they not going to have vehicles there and for the plumbing company?
Truck
But-
storage and
Right.
supplies.
Right. They will. So, anyway, but that's where.
But they
where-
won't.
Well, they won't. That's right.
I certainly hope they take good care of explaining to Michael Cup, because I think he's come a long way as a young man, and built that company from scratch. Because they used to have an office down across from AT&T
Yes.
Yep.
there. So, we sit here and we talk, but we should also keep in mind to promote what's going on in the existing businesses, and that's retainage.
Yeah.
That means that, okay, if the use doesn't fit this building, here's another site. Maybe this will work for you.
Yeah.
Understood. Okay.
The only thing I was going to add there is that it just underscores how important it would be.
That's probably true.
Could have a
That's kind of an
domino,
obvious
could have a
statement.
domino effect, you
Yeah,
know?
that's
Who
an obvious
knows? Yeah.
statement, but it could be on the
Okay, we're going to move on then. Any reports from staff that we haven't already discussed?
Nope, nothing other than what we've discussed.
Would you like to introduce us to
Yes, I
your
would.
assistant?
This is Tasha Hensley. She replaced Malin, and she's doing a fabulous job.
Welcome.
Welcome, nice to meet you. Tasha, what was your last
Your father wasn't a state trooper, was he?
name? AGNSLEY?
Yes, exactly. What'd you say?
Your father a state trooper?
So that's a married name.
Oh, okay. All right.
Bart, you talking about Bart?
Cal?
I don't know. No.
We'll take the spotlight off you if you want. Any other thoughts, comments that we haven't already talked about?
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I'm thinking that, you know, when you use development of the DQ block, I'm wondering if we don't need a dream maker. If we need an architect or someone that sees the streetscape, the part of the culture of downtown, and can envision what it should look like. I think maybe we all have our own little ideas as to what we've got, but have someone produce a rendering marketable.
That's right. We should dream big.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
True.
And that was my only question is, can we meet and plan and talk? I'm obviously in a hurry.
Right.
Can we do
It
something
is,
like that?
it is going to happen, yes. I don't have a time frame on it, and
We
I-
need to do the purchase or possible
Correct,
purchase first.
right.
Okay.
we have to pull together some other pieces first, but it is coming, it is happening, and I encourage you to keep pushing to make that happen. Good job. Okay, and there's nothing wrong with that. The sooner the better. It's just a lot of things have to happen first.
Understood.
Yeah.
Understood. Can I ask a far-out question? Our wonderful, wonderful sidewalk that was added in that area, it really has been a wonderful blessing to have people walk safely on that sidewalk. And I had the idea months ago, after it was built, about painting the wall that was, the retaining wall that had to be built. And that innocent little comment has come to fruition. It's just coming up with the money to make that happen. So I didn't know, since it's technically town property, correct, Lisa?
Yes.
The sidewalk, the retaining wall. I didn't know what we had to go through to get that approved or where funding could come from. I know everybody's tight on Monday. But just to beautify it, it would be the same art, Mary, who's done a lot of the other artwork in the area. She has plans.
You can have that conversation, private conversation with Linda on the process for getting that approved.
We can
And-
do that.
Yeah, okay,
Yep.
okay.
I don't think that's going to be a RDC thing, is it? It's more of
Well,
a library and town thing?
It's part of our, it's right next to the library. The library has the ideas, but it's part of our block, the RDC block. So that's why I brought it up
I got you.
here, just to see what we felt about
like.
beautifying that area.
I like all the artwork that's going up around town, so Ben personally likes it.
Maybe we can find a volunteer that would just love to go out there and paint something on it.
Somebody good.
Yes, somebody good, obviously. Yeah, not what we typically get on buildings.
Yes.
Right.
Right.
We'll get together, Linda, and
Okay,
and
sounds
talk
good.
about that.
Sounds good.
Any other thoughts or comments?
Before we close, I just wanted to make sure this, you got the next meeting is November 9th.
Veterans
So
Day.
that's a Tuesday?
Veterans Day. Veterans Day. On the 11th.
The
Holiday.
reason that is because Veterans Day
Guys are
holiday,
off.
and that would have been the day that we would normally have. I looked at that today. So the 11th is a Thursday, and the town will be closed, so.
I have a conflict on the 9th. I will not be here on the
Why not
9th.
move it to the 4th?
We can. Could do that. Would that be better?
Not for me, but I don't have to be here, so
I
this,
think
Yes, you do.
the
Yes.
show can continue
No,
without me.
No, you need to be here.
Is that too soon?
Yeah,
Have a
that's
meeting
kinda
on the
soon.
4th?
What about the 18th
I was
then?
gonna say, could we do the 18th?
Yeah.
I can do the 18th.
18th?
Yep. Gary? Yay. Okay.
As far as I know. Florida or anything.
Okay. We've,
Thank you, that's all.
we've said it all, and I'm going to, at 6:17, adjourn the meeting. We are adjourned.
Meeting.